He went into the wilderness to heal his past. What he found changed his life forever. The man who walked away. Ethan Cole used to believe that hard work fixed everything. If you stayed late, if you tried harder, if you ignored the pain long enough. But life had proven him wrong. At 37, Ethan stood in his nearly empty apartment, staring at walls that once held family photos. The frames were gone now. Only faded outlines remained, ghosts of a life he had failed to protect. His marriage had collapsed quietly, like a building condemned long before it fell. No shouting, no drama, just distance, paperwork, and signatures that felt heavier than chains. The worst part wasn't losing his wife. It was losing his daughter. Lily was 11 when she stopped calling, 12 when she stopped replying. By 13, she acted like he didn't exist. Ethan told himself she needed time. Deep down, he knew the truth. She needed a father who hadn't chosen work over birthdays, silence over apologies, pride over love. When noise becomes pain, the city didn't help. Traffic screamed day and night. Neon lights burned his eyes. Strangers brushed past him without ever really seeing him. Every sound felt like an accusation. He couldn't sleep anymore. When he did, the dreams came. Lily standing at the door, her backpack slipping off one shoulder. Her voice small but sharp. "Why didn't you fight for us, Dad?" He always woke up before he could answer. One morning, after another sleepless night, Ethan looked at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. He barely recognized the man staring back. That was the moment he decided to leave. Running isn't always cowardice. Ethan didn't announce his departure. He sold his furniture, quit the last contract job he hated, packed only what he needed: clothes, tools, a few old photographs he couldn't bring himself to throw away. He drove north, past suburbs, past highways, past the places where people still pretended everything was fine. The farther he went, the quieter the world became. No notifications, no deadlines, no memories chasing him down crowded sidewalks. Just trees, endless trees. The cabin that didn't ask questions. The cabin sat at the edge of a thick forest, weathered but standing. It belonged to an old acquaintance who no longer came there. No neighbors, no cell signal, just isolation. It wasn't romantic. The roof leaked in one corner. The floor creaked with every step. The fireplace needed cleaning, but the silence felt honest. The wilderness didn't care who Ethan had disappointed. Out here, survival mattered more than excuses. Learning to live again. The first week nearly broke him. Chopping wood blistered his hands. Cooking over fire burned more meals than it saved. Nights were colder than he expected. But exhaustion did something the city never could. It silenced his thoughts. Each day followed a simple rhythm. Wake up, fetch water, repair something broken, sleep. There was no room for regret when your hands were busy staying alive. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt useful. The illusion of peace. By the third week, he believed he was healing. He laughed once, surprised himself. He slept through an entire night, no dreams. He told himself he had outrun the past. That belief shattered during a storm. Rain slammed into the cabin like fists. Thunder cracked the sky open. The wind screamed through the trees, wild and unforgiving. Ethan woke up drenched in sweat. The dream was back, Lily again, but this time, she turned away. Guilt has a voice. He sat by the fire until dawn, staring into flames that refused to answer him. Isolation didn't erase guilt, it amplified it. With nothing to distract him, every mistake replayed louder than before. Every missed call, every broken promise, every moment he chose later instead of now. The wilderness wasn't healing him. It was forcing him to face himself. The footprints. It happened on a quiet morning. Ethan was checking traps near the creek when he noticed something wrong. Footprints. Human. Fresh. His chest tightened instantly. No one was supposed to be out here. He followed them cautiously, heart pounding louder with every step. The forest suddenly felt less peaceful, more watchful. Then he saw her, the woman by the creek. She lay half-conscious near the water, her clothes torn, her face pale with exhaustion. Alive, barely. Ethan dropped to his knees beside her, checking for injuries. Her ankle was swollen badly. Lips cracked, skin ice cold. She whispered something he barely heard. Please. Without thinking, Ethan lifted her, carried her back to the cabin. 2 strangers, 1 shelter. She woke hours later. Panic flashed in her eyes until he spoke gently. You're safe. Her name was Maya. She had been running too, from a past she didn't want to explain yet. Her car had broken down miles away. She tried walking. She collapsed. If Ethan hadn't found her. Neither of them said it out loud. They didn't need to. Silence between the broken. The cabin changed after that. 2 people sharing silence felt different than 1 man hiding inside it. They spoke little at first. Trust came slowly, but pain has a way of recognizing pain. And somewhere between shared meals and quiet nights, Ethan realized something terrifying. He didn't want to disappear anymore. A fragile beginning. Maya stayed mostly quiet the first 2 days. Pain had a way of humbling people, and her injured ankle kept her confined to the small bed near the fireplace. Ethan checked on her regularly, changing bandages, bringing water, cooking simple meals. They moved around each other carefully, like strangers afraid of disturbing something fragile. At night, when the fire crackled and the wind whispered through the trees, Ethan noticed Maya staring into the flames. Not sleeping, not resting, remembering. The truth slips out. On the 3rd night, the silence finally broke. Why are you really out here? Maya asked suddenly, her voice steady but tired. Ethan hesitated. No one just lives this far from everything, she added. Not unless they're hiding. The words hit harder than he expected. He exhaled slowly. I didn't come here to hide. That's what everyone says, she replied. He looked at the floor, then nodded. Okay, maybe I did. A father's regret. Ethan told her about Lily. About the missed birthdays. The late nights at work. The slow, silent distance that grew until it became permanent. I thought providing was enough, he said quietly. I thought love was understood. Maya listened without interrupting. When she stopped answering my calls, he continued, voice breaking, I realized something too late. Love doesn't survive neglect. The fire popped loudly. Maya swallowed hard. I know that feeling. Maya's past. Her story came slowly, piece by piece. She had loved the wrong man. Trusted the wrong promises. What began as charm turned into control, then fear. He never hit me at first, she said softly. That's how it starts. You convince yourself it's not abuse. Until it was. Leaving him had taken everything she had. When her car broke down, she thought it was fate telling her to stop running. Instead, it nearly killed her. Healing is not linear. Something shifted between them after that night. Not romance. Understanding. They shared chores when Maya could stand. They ate together. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. And Ethan noticed something strange. Helping Maya gave him purpose. Not escape. Not distraction. Purpose. For the first time since Lily was born, someone depended on him again. The letter never sent. One afternoon, while Maya rested, Ethan took out an old notebook. He hadn't written to Lily in over a year. His hands shook as he began. Dear Lily, I don't know if you'll ever read this. The words came slowly, painfully honest. He didn't excuse himself. He didn't defend his choices. He apologized. When he finished, tears blurred the page. He folded the letter and placed it back in his bag. Not ready to send, but no longer afraid to write. A false sense of safety. As weeks passed, Maya's ankle improved. Winter crept closer. Snow dusted the treetops. The creek slowed. The nights grew longer and colder. Ethan checked supplies and frowned. They would need more firewood. More food. He planned a trip to town before the roads closed. Maya didn't like the idea. Something feels off, she said one evening. Ethan smiled reassuringly. I've got this. He didn't see the storm coming. When nature turns hostile, the weather changed overnight. Winds howled through the forest. Snow fell thick and fast, swallowing trails within minutes. The generator sputtered, then died. The cabin grew colder by the hour. Ethan tried restarting it. Nothing. They wrapped themselves in blankets near the fire, conserving energy. By morning, the temperature had dropped dangerously low. Ethan knew what had to be done. The choice. I have to fix the generator, he said. Maya's eyes widened. In this storm, You could get lost. You could freeze. If I don't, he replied calmly, we both might. She grabbed his sleeve. Please don't go. Ethan looked at her, really looked. And in that moment, he wasn't running anymore. He was choosing to stay. I'll come back, he promised. Into the storm. The storm was merciless. Snow blinded him. Wind knocked him off balance. His fingers went numb despite thick gloves. Every step felt heavier than the last. He fell once, hard. Lying there, breath shallow, a terrifying thought crossed his mind. This is how it ends. But then another image surfaced. Lily, smiling, waiting. He forced himself up. Step by step, Ethan fought his way forward. Survival isn't strength, it's will. Reaching the generator took nearly an hour. Fixing it took 5 minutes. Life was cruel like that. As the engine roared back to life, Ethan collapsed against the wall, laughing weakly. He had done it, but the storm wasn't finished with him yet. The walk back was worse. Crossing the edge, halfway back, Ethan's vision blurred. Cold seeped into his bones. He stumbled, then fell again. This time, he didn't get up. Snow covered his jacket. Darkness closed in. Maya's decision. Inside the cabin, hours passed. The heat returned, but Ethan didn't. Maya stared at the door, fear tightening her chest. Ignoring the pain in her ankle, she wrapped herself in layers, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped outside. She refused to lose another chance at life. Not again. Found. She found him near the trail. Unconscious. Barely breathing. Maya screamed his name until her voice broke. Using everything she had, she dragged him back. The fire roared. Ethan coughed. Alive. New understanding. When Ethan woke, Maya was crying. He reached for her hand weakly. I came back, he whispered. She laughed through tears. So did I. In that fragile moment, both understood something deeply human. Healing doesn't happen alone. He went into the wilderness to heal his past. What he found changed his life forever. The aftermath. Ethan didn't fully wake for 2 days. His body burned with fever, his breathing shallow and uneven. Maya barely slept, feeding the fire, cooling his forehead, whispering words he might never hear. I won't let you disappear, she said more than once. Not after everything. On the 3rd morning, his eyes finally opened. The first thing he saw was firelight. The second was Maya. You're stubborn, she said, laughing through tears. Ethan tried to smile. It hurt. So are you, he whispered. Facing mortality, recovery was slow. Every movement reminded Ethan how close he had come to dying alone in the snow. Lying awake at night, listening to the forest breathe, he realized something terrifying. If he had died out there, Lily would never know he tried to change. That thought hurt more than the cold ever had. I can't stay here forever, he said quietly one evening. Maya looked at him, understanding instantly. Neither can I. The letter finally sent. A week later, when the storm eased and the sky cleared, Ethan took out the letter again. He reread it carefully. This time, he didn't fold it back. Using a weak satellite signal from an old emergency device, he sent it as an email, attaching the handwritten pages as photos. His finger hovered over the button. Then he pressed send. No dramatic music, no instant relief, just fear. Waiting hurts more than silence. Days passed. No response. Ethan tried not to check every hour. Maya noticed anyway. She might need time, she said gently. Just like you did. He nodded, but hope felt dangerous. Hope had betrayed him before. A sound from the past. The reply came on a quiet afternoon. A notification tone, sharp and unfamiliar. Ethan froze, hands shaking. He opened the message. Dad, I don't know what to say. I read your letter 3 times. I'm not ready to forgive everything, but I don't want you gone from my life anymore. Can we talk? Ethan collapsed into the chair. He cried openly, the kind of crying that comes from years of restraint finally breaking. Maya held him. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. Preparing to leave, spring approached slowly. Snow melted. Trails reopened. The cabin no longer felt like a hiding place. It felt like a beginning. They packed supplies carefully. Not in a rush, Ethan fixed what he could before leaving, a quiet thank you to the place that saved him. Before locking the door, he paused. This place gave me my life back, he said. Maya smiled. Now go live it. Back to civilization. The road back felt strange. Too loud, too fast, but Ethan didn't feel lost anymore. They reached a small town by nightfall. Warm lights, people, noise. Maya booked a cheap motel. Ethan called Lily. For the first time in years, she answered immediately. The first conversation. They didn't talk about the past right away. They talked about school, music, life, simple things. But before hanging up, Lily said something that stayed with him. I'm proud of you for trying, Dad. Ethan closed his eyes. Trying mattered. Two separate paths. Maya stood outside her bus the next morning, backpack slung over her shoulder. So, she said lightly, this is where we don't promise forever. Ethan nodded. We promise honesty. They hugged. Not desperate, not afraid. Grateful. If life crosses our paths again, she added, we'll meet as better versions of ourselves. Ethan smiled. I'd like that. The long road home. Ethan rented a small apartment near Lily's city. Nothing fancy, just honest. He took a modest job. Showed up on time, left on time. Every weekend, he called. Sometimes Lily answered, sometimes she didn't, but she never blocked him again. Redemption is built slowly. Months passed. Trust returned inch by inch. Ethan learned something important. Redemption isn't dramatic. It's consistent. It's choosing to stay, even when it's uncomfortable. A familiar name. One evening, an email appeared. From Maya. Just a photo. A small apartment. Sunlight through a window. A caption. Still choosing life. Ethan smiled. Typed back. Me too. The man who returned. A year later, Ethan stood at the edge of the city park, watching Lily laugh with friends. She caught his eye, waved. That wave meant everything. He wasn't healed completely, but he was present, and that was enough. What the wilderness really gave him. Ethan never returned to the cabin. He didn't need to. The wilderness didn't save him by isolating him. It saved him by reminding him what mattered. Connection, courage, and the choice to come back. One last winter memory. On a quiet winter morning, nearly 2 years after leaving the wilderness, Ethan woke up to falling snow outside his apartment window. For a moment, his heart raced. The cabin, the storm, the silence. Then reality settled gently around him. A warm apartment, a phone charging on the table, a message waiting. From Lily. Can we have breakfast today? Ethan smiled. Healing doesn't erase scars. Life never returned to what it once was. It became something better. Ethan and Lily didn't pretend the past hadn't happened. They talked about it openly, sometimes painfully. Some days were easy, some days were not, but the difference was simple. Ethan stayed. When conversations got uncomfortable, he didn't retreat. When emotions ran high, he didn't disappear. He learned that love isn't proven by grand gestures. It's proven by presence. A message from the past. One evening, as the city lights flickered on, Ethan received another email. From Maya. She had started volunteering at a shelter for women rebuilding their lives. She wrote about fear, about strength, about choosing courage daily. At the end of the email, she wrote, "The wilderness didn't save us. We saved ourselves, because we finally stopped running." Ethan read that line twice. She was right. A quiet reunion. Months later, fate surprised him. Ethan spotted Maya at a small train station cafe while traveling for work. For a moment, neither spoke. Then they laughed, not out of awkwardness, but recognition. They sat for hours, talking like old friends who shared something unexplainable. No promises, no pressure, just honesty. When they parted, it felt complete. What survival really means. Ethan often thought about the question people asked him now. Why did you leave everything behind? He never gave the same answer twice. Sometimes he said, to survive. Other times, he said, to remember who I was. But the truth was deeper. He left to learn that running away doesn't heal pain, facing it does. A father's redemption. On Lily's graduation day, Ethan stood in the crowd, heart pounding. When she walked across the stage, she looked straight at him. She smiled. After the ceremony, she hugged him tightly. "You didn't give up," she whispered. "That's what matters." Ethan closed his eyes. This moment was worth every storm. The cabin lives on. Some places don't disappear. They live inside you. The cabin became a reminder, not of escape, but of awakening. Whenever life felt heavy, Ethan remembered the firelight, the silence, the moment he chose to come back. That memory grounded him. The final lesson, Ethan learned something the wilderness never said aloud. You don't have to disappear to heal. You don't have to suffer alone to grow. And you don't have to be perfect to be worthy of forgiveness. You just have to stay. Full circle. Years later, Ethan walked through a forest trail, not to escape, but to breathe. The trees stood tall, calm, patient, just like before, but he was different now. He walked forward, not away. Ending. Some people go into the wilderness to find peace. Others go to lose themselves. Ethan went to disappear, but what he found was a reason to return. The end. Right finger subscribe for more cinematic, emotional, and inspiring stories. Right finger like and share if this story touched your heart.